unmuting.
We're about to start.
We are.
To the 2022 annual general meeting. Where do we start? So our agenda tonight, it is an annual general meeting, so it's a bit more formal than we would normally do, but the agenda tonight is to go through the welcomes, the apologies, the proxies, positions for this meeting, reports, lucky door prize, then we'll sort of stop and do some the formal pieces, which are declare the positions of the executive vacant, elect the branch executive, elect other committee meetings, committee members, then talk about the election of the National Council representative, the company director. Can't do that, which at the moment, and I'll go into that for a moment, because of a technical issue, that was my fault. We'll talk about the calendar for the coming year, the budget for the coming year, any other business, and then we'll close. So that's sort of the welcome piece out of the way, I guess. And the next is the apologies. And so for the minutes, I had two apologies. One was William Fisher and Elizabeth. Really? Are they you? Baloo. So we'll note those down. They emailed me a couple of days ago. There are no proxies, so we don't need to note those. The positions for this meeting, we want to try and mix things up going forward a little bit. So we'll assign a chair, a scribe, and for this particular meeting, we need a returns officer. So the chair for this meeting will be me, but in the future we'll mix it up a little bit. We've been talking about trying to mix up the meetings and have different people chair. We also talked about having different people scribe, so we can mix up the effort a little bit as well. But for this one, I'll be the chair as per normal, and Mark will be the scribe as per normal. In the future, we'll try and mix it up a little bit. And for this meeting, because it's the AGM, I've asked David to be the returns officer to manage the election process, which he's agreed to do.
All right, so we're up to notices and attendances, so we're going to go to minutes of previous branch meeting.
Minutes of previous branch meeting. So the minutes are here. Let me land. So if is there any comments on the minutes? If you want to have a quick read or sign the minutes?
No, sign on.
Sign it. We're just taking notes. Pretty easy. Yeah, it's easy that way. So if anyone wants to read the minutes, or if there's any comments around the minutes, or any read the minutes, or any commentary about the minutes from last time.
So was the last one 1 year ago or 2 years ago?
1 year.
1 year ago. So it was actually in July. So it was a little bit early. 29th of July, 2020. It was by Zoom. Zoom. That's what was so on the ball. Nothing special. Had a bit of a read. But if you're interested or have any comments, let us know. Otherwise, we'll take them as approved.
So are we approving it?
Yep, I reckon. No one's said any otherwise. So, and they've been available for quite a while. So I said they've been approved unless anyone objects.
No?
You can have a read.
I can't.
You can't have any glasses at all, so you can't read at all. Okay, whatever.
So does that mean you'll approve it?
If everyone else agrees.
No.
Well, I approve.
You take my word. There's nothing terribly controversial. The most interesting thing there was the finances, which was that was the most detailed things. Mostly it was
For the EV Expo.
It did capture the EV Expo.
Yeah.
That's true. There was quite a bit of money going through. It was that did capture that.
80 grand's worth.
Yeah,
But outside of that, it was pretty standard.
it was.
I see where Greg's Enfield got up to. That was in the meeting minutes. From
It
last
was.
year, so I always intrigued to see whether I suppose he finished by Christmas. So.
Yeah, right.
Well, on that he sold it. So
You
but
better
that's
bring that
another
up with him. Anyway,
So
alright,
I think
so can we get a vote?
Oh yeah, we vote.
2, 3. All right, it's consensus. All right.
Yeah, good.
Positions for this meeting.
No. So the next is the reports
Okay.
because we did the positions. Oh, sorry, I did it out of order. I
Yeah.
messed up the order. Sorry.
So we'll go back to positions for this meeting.
Well, we already did that on the chair.
Okay.
Because I've got the talking stick. Said it was me. Mark's the scribe and David's the returns officer.
Chairman's and vice chairman's report.
Aha. So the chairman's report. The highlight of my thinking was that there's a bit of rebuilding happening over the last little while.
Well, we did go through COVID.
And we did go through COVID. From a national perspective, there was been a new constitution, a new name and a new structure So now we're all company limited by guarantee. So we're going to shut down the old company, which was registered in Victoria, solely registered in Victoria. Started the new company, which is registered with ATSIC and registered with GST and company limited by guarantee and has a board of directors, and so takes us to the next level of structure, I guess, and organisation. And that was done for two reasons. One was we were getting to the size of funds where we needed to A, register for GST and manage the money better, largely because of the events. And B, we'd realised that through that process, through figuring out our financials, that the being registered in Victoria meant that we were covered, the people in Victoria were covered for whatever they did. Every other branch was in a grey area. It wasn't really covered in terms of protection, director protections or insurance or those sorts of things, because we're in this grey area between registered in Victoria and operating in other states. So we went to great lengths to get advice from lawyers who suggested this new structure, which is company limited by guarantee, which means that we're not-for-profit company limited by guarantee, which means we are in the right position, we are protected, we do have the right insurances, we are now registered for GST, we're shutting down the old AEVA Inc. and we're now proprietary limited, I think, or LC, I think it is. Anyway, so that's just about to be completed because it takes a little while to start and stop. But we have a new constitution which covers all of those things. And one of the things we'll have to talk about a little bit later is the director's position, but I'll do that a little bit later.
And we can employ people now.
We can. I mean, there's more things that we can do. So, still on that theme of rebuilding from the national perspective, we did the expo last week, and that was a big deal. That was, I think, it's the biggest event, the first major event that we've done since COVID. It's the first major event that we did since our event, 2019, if I'm not mistaken, because sort of COVID messed us around, and on any measure that was a real success. We weren't quite sure what it was going to be, but it worked out pretty well. There was 150 people at the conference, there was 120 people at the dinner, and there was about 8,000 people through the hall. So that was a success, and I'm thinking that hopefully it'll grow. So, back to my theme of rebuilding.
You also mentioned that Canberra wanted to do it again.
Talking about doing it again. From a local perspective, we've been rebuilding the structure of the meetings, getting back into a regular cadence. We're almost there. We've got a theme. We haven't quite followed through the way that we hoped, but hopefully that'll get better. We're still talking about having the every second month physical meeting, and then doing either a Zoom, a social, or a workshop in the odd months to try and mix it up. We're talking about being a little bit more flexible when it comes to the way we manage the meetings, this one not being one of them because it's the formal. And we're talking about reconnecting with some of the events. I mean, in the past 6 months, the external events have been Hillshire, St Ives, Chatswood's coming up. Annandale Council asked us to do it, but we couldn't, and then the NRMA things. So we've been doing more events, all on my theme of kind of rebuilding the national, rebuilding what we do here, state-based, rebuilding the structure of the meetings, and rebuilding our events. So what comes after that is rebranding. I think that we're going to rebrand AEVA, logos and the mission message. More involved in partnerships, because the more we talk to people, the more things we did in Canberra, the more the partnerships and those sorts of things come out of the woodwork. And the greater our level of advocacy will be at that level as well. So there's sort of two things that are happening with the organisation. There's really Chris Jones really wants to drive the grassroots stuff, what we do here locally, really start to drive the advocacy and the education from a national perspective. So all along my theme of rebuilding. It's been an interesting 12 months, it's been a bit of an up and down, but I think in general, a successful one. I think now is over to John for the Vice Chair.
Okay. Well, thank you, Michael. So I think it's all been a blur, but I do remember two social events that we had. One where we went to Bundanoon, and that was a joint event with Toka. And I mean, it's all a blur, but I think that did actually happen since the last meeting, and that was something that I was involved in. And on the one hand, by golly, I mean, I was on that. It was a large number of people jointly held with Toka. It really felt like a thing for those who did actually turn up to it. And yeah, it was lovely. For me, it was a bit stressful because I guess there's the tension between me, who just wants a small, sedate gathering, and I guess Jason over there, who loves to market things and amp them up. But never mind, it happened, it worked, it was good. Another thing we did, we went off over the mountains and visited Charles Daglish at his place. So that not many people turned up to that, but that was quite good. Now, also going back a while, I'm not sure how far ago, but some of us did actually go along to the Coffee and Cars in Cronulla. And that was just lovely to be there and walk up down the road and have a look at the other cars. Now, there's a few events that I have tried to organise. We've tried to get the Coffee and Cars happening at St Ives, but either that's been COVIDed out or it's been washed out. People will remember going back a few months, there was so much bloody rain, it wasn't funny. We've still got rain these days, but not just continuous day after day.
Like the weekend at St Ives.
Yeah,
Or at least the Saturday.
so there's one time where I was going to go to St Ives, I think it was COVIDed out, then it was rained out, and most recently we tried to get along, but they cancelled it, but didn't cancel it on the website. They cancelled it on their Facebook page and had to know which Facebook page to look at to find out they'd been cancelled. But still, there was a lovely gathering. We had, I think, Stephen and Mark and myself, and we had a good old chat, and went for coffee and so on, and that was lovely to do. And I know Mark wanted to give his car a bit of a workout, so that was good. So, and I've been trying to get the old pub gathering things happening again. That was at the Blue Gum Hotel. Basically, a lot of people said they'd turned up, and really none of the people who said they'd turned up did turn up. There was a member who we haven't seen for a while, came out of the woodwork on his way to Gosford or something, and sort of dropped by. So it was good to have a chat with someone there. So I suppose I do hope we'll have more pub meetings. But if I organise a pub meeting, it's going to be close to my place. So, but yeah, I'm sure things will kick off. But yeah, we've done a decent amount this few years. I mean, I went along to the expo in Canberra as well, and it was interesting the number of people who are interested in conversions. And I don't know if that's a Canberra thing or it's a more general thing. But certainly there's a renewal of interest in conversions. Once upon a time, conversions was the only way you could get into EVs. Now a lot of people have cars they're really fond of that they want to maintain as EVs, I guess would be the sentiment there. Now, a few other political things I stuck my oar in, the shortage of EVs and how to manage that and what's happening with international production lines, but I suppose maybe that's a matter for a separate discussion. But there's certainly some politics to get into if you're interested, and there was a lot of discussion of policy and so on at the Canberra meeting. But I think I'll leave it at that for my report. There's lots of other things I could talk about, but I'd be going down rabbit holes and Jason would be rolling his eyes. But anyway, look, I'll leave it at that for my report.
So that means thank you very much. Thank you, John. Over to Mark.
Okay, I'll just go through the meeting, the activity since the last meeting, which was on the 6th of July. So we had an EV drive day on the 23rd and 24th of July. Where was that? That was St Ives again,
NRMA.
opposite the showground at the NRMA Heart
Driver
facility,
training,
driver training thing. There was also the meeting at the Blue Gum where there was only 2 people, John and one other.
Yeah, one other who was an AEVA member and his co-driver that was with him, but he wasn't an AEVA member.
Okay.
Blue Gum with Hornsby, was it?
Yes, the one. Yeah.
We had a lot of interest in that, so it's quite disappointing that John was the only one.
I was so busy.
For some reason, my calendar, I had it as the week after.
Oh, really?
That's why I didn't turn up.
Anyway, and the other thing was the expo on the 6th and 7th, which we've already talked about.
Which was huge.
Okay, that's it for the meeting.
Thank you very much.
No notifications.
Notifications.
You should have got an email
Should get
from
emails.
I never
it's
got one for the Blue Gum.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. So
Because that was 500 metres up the road.
Yeah.
Would have been lovely to see you there, but I can quite understand if you don't know about it, you can't.
can't get it. Remind me later, and I'll double check. I'll go back because I noticed that the same comments from others that they're not getting through. And in fact, it happened to me.
We've got to work on our communication.
No,
To be
that's
fair, our head's been spinning
Well,
the
that's true.
last year.
In general.
Maybe we'll
I think
get a
everyone
sense
is, but anyway.
Yeah. There was a problem with the reflector. It happened to me, not so much for these kind of emails. It was the national emails. So, but remind me and I'll check.
I got an email on Monday for that on the session was on the Wednesday.
No, sorry.
Okay.
We're only for July, so.
We'll try to do better. It just means it's over to Jason.
Well, we haven't really spent any money.
Well,
Well, we have, but
comparatively, we have. That was my fault. Basically, I strung on Jason and spent money on the gazebo, the flags, and the new tablecloth. The idea being that we hadn't spent a lot of money for a long time, and we're trying to rebuild our event kit. And I have to say, it looks fantastic.
I know, right? So at the Canberra Expo, our gazebo was probably a standout.
It was.
But yeah, and I think all the other clubs that were there were probably wanting to buy the same thing in the end. But yeah, that's pretty much all we've bought. So basically, we started off total expenditure $1,611.14. We have $1,776 in assets, and we'll get another cash injection this coming financial year once we apply for that, I assume. And there's just 5 transactions in an entire year, so
Yep.
I'd like to submit this as the Treasurer's report for this financial year.
If you're interested, come and have a look.
You got a copy?
I can give you one.
Minutes? Yeah, you need one.
Yep, we have one. I have one somewhere here. I'll give it to you later.
Yep.
It is here. But
I'll scan it and send it to you, so it'll be fine.
back to the next topic, which is membership driving. So membership prices have not changed, I don't believe, and obviously we're going to have to go through and work out why we have members that are, not renewed.
Chase.
We're going to chase you. But yeah, look, I mean, there's that. Plus, also there was talk. We've got a new hat. So AEVA's bought a new design for the logo, so we're going to try and flog some of those off, and just get the website's getting a lot of work. And also we updated the New South Wales page, so it's now mobile friendly and actually has us on it.
We'll have to put a new secretary on that, depending on how.
I don't know, it
the
depends on how you vote
See what
for that,
happens.
but we can't influence that result, right?
We'll get to that.
So now we're up to election of branch committee and executive.
So this is where we sort of stop this part of the meeting. The executive spill. We hand over to.
Do we need to get a room vote on this treasurer's thing first, though?
I think so.
Approve the financials.
Yeah.
To approve the financials. Do you want to approve the financials?
Anyone approving?
I move that
I'll say yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I move that the financial report of the treasurer be accepted. There you go.
Oh, perfect.
And technically, you might have a seconder.
There is one thing we did not factor in this. It has some money in it, but that's about it. Yeah.
Discretionary.
AEVA.asn.au.
See, I've got that straight up. Even New South Wales, yeah. And you hit what? Sorry, wrong one.
Oh, we'll help you get in there. It's very straightforward. We actually, at the Canberra Expo, printed some nice QR codes for people to renew their membership because it became a big issue.
Yeah, we should bring that along.
So we could include those in our meetings anyway.
Anyway, so now that we've approved the finances, which is probably the right thing to do, we hand over to.
Hold on, we've moved that it be accepted.
And you had two.
Oh,
to choose
no.
from.
Oh, yes. Well, technically, we should have mover, a seconder, and then a general vote, hopefully receiving the treasurer's report. So I know I moved.
Yep.
We had a seconder, so.
Okay, all for?
Right.
Perfect.
Against?
Okay. All right. Well, that is
One
passed by
abstention.
majority. It is not passed unanimously. There you go.
Done.
Perfect. So now we hand over to the returns officer and let David take over the rest of the meeting, or this part of the meeting.
So I guess we're declaring all the committee positions vacant.
Yep. So chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer.
All right. So I guess we'll start off with the chairperson. Do I have any nominees for the chairperson for this coming year?
I'll stand again.
Are we accepting nominations from the floor for this meeting?
You can nominate from the floor and you can nominate yourself. Yes.
Are there any prior nominations?
There are no other prior nominations. No.
We did email out.
Yeah. We are.
Yep. Are there any other nominations for chairperson? I think.
I'm going to fight for it.
Michael Day is sitting in the position for another year.
Yeah. Thank you for your.
Thank you for
your
continued
support.
service.
Thank you.
All right. Now the vice chairperson has just one position.
Yes.
So nominations for a vice chairperson.
Yes, like yours truly, I will nominate myself.
Any other nominations?
Silence.
Congratulations, John. Moving on to secretary, nominations for the role of secretary.
I nominate Mark Roberts. And Jamie. Look at his face.
Nominations?
Michael was speaking to me this past week.
Yeah, I nominate Jamie.
And you accept the nomination, you'll accept that nomination?
Yeah.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Okay,
Well,
is there anyone
Mark,
else
you
who
can-
would like to nominate the role of secretary?
Mark, you can withdraw yourself from contention for secretary.
I'll vote for Jamie.
Well, maybe you should officially withdraw yourself rather than we have.
He didn't accept.
He hasn't accepted the nomination.
Okay, Mark did not accept. All right,
Mark's
fair enough.
nomination, so.
You're not past your use by date yet, Mark, you know.
I think,
Come on,
Jamie-
I can still be
That's it.
active.
Look, the,
Thank you. I accept.
Hey,
yeah.
fresh blood.
Nominating Joseph as executive, the final role is for treasurer, nominations for treasurer.
Yep.
Nominate Jason me.
Yeah.
Smash your
It's
revenge,
it's a very demanding job.
Any other nominations?
Wait until I make some suggestions.
Yeah, get into it.
Congratulations, Jason, treasurer. for
No worries.
Thank you
I'll
very much,
just
David.
stop the live feed so my missus can't see it.
Are we going to do any other committee member roles?
Yes, we are. Well, we're going to talk about it at least, but you don't have to do that. I can do that, so you can hand the reins back to me.
We'll just hand it over.
Yep.
Election of committee members.
So we have had ordinary members for specific tasks, things like social media, or events coordinator, policy manager, and those sorts of things. So this is where, if you want to stand and help out with the committee, you can. You can either be just as someone to help or a specific task that we can make up, or we can
I'll stand as a helper.
as a helper. Okay, that's right.
I think
So-
there is the opportunity of a general committee member.
a
Is that
general
correct?
committee member, yes,
Yes.
exactly.
That
right.
is actually legitimate. I
is.
saw it in the.
Yeah, it is.
They got 2 people in Canberra right now doing it.
Yep. So some have got up to, I think, a total of 6.
Yeah.
Round out the board to be a 6 anyway. So Mark self-nominates to be committee member, and we can.
You can always vote against me.
Yeah. So it's
Sure. Richard, what about you?
What about Dave?
Yep.
All right.
Right.
Nice.
Stephen.
Stephen.
Yep.
You know that there's no. You can't have dual citizenship. You can't be a member of TOCA and this, you know.
Ah,
Yeah, I am, but anyway.
So I don't think we need to. Well, thank you very much. I think we just
Yeah,
say yes.
there you
So
go,
we-
Jason. Do as I say, not as I do, eh?
I just want to stress him
The
out
vote
a
on that
bit.
is somewhat unofficial, and you're in. Okay, so after the general committee meeting members,
Election of National Council Representative and Company Director.
so this is generally it would have been when before we changed to company limited by guarantee, it would have been just to elect one person, generally from the executive, to represent us on the national executive, national committee, national executive. Because we're a company limited by guarantee now, that is now a director, and it's a lot more formal. And so what we should have done is we should have let you know 28 days in advance of this meeting that we're going to elect the director. And we should have taken nominations during that period. And then 1 week before this meeting, we sort of had to let people know who the nominations were. And that's the bit that we didn't do. So unfortunately, talking to HQ, I've done the wrong thing. So we can't follow through on that process. This one in particular, this first one through, we want it to be somewhat formal to make sure that we do the right thing. So what we have proposed is that we'll kick off the process again starting tomorrow. We'll go out to the membership and say we're going to elect the director. It will be at the next meeting, so which is the September 14th. So we'll start from now for September 14th. That will be a Zoom meeting so that we can capture as many people as possible. And then 1 week before then, we'll let everyone know who has nominated to be the director for our branch. Like I say, typically it's from the executive. It doesn't have to be. Can anyone be anyone from any one of the members, in case we've got someone that's skilled at that kind of stuff. So that's the process. Did it wrong, describe the process, let you know tomorrow and the general membership. And then I was going to put my hand up to be the director again, because technically I am a founding director, because when we started the company, we had to have 3 directors, and that is myself, Chris Jones as the president, and Warwick Caltho as the secretary. So we're currently directors, and so I was going to put myself forward as the director for this next cycle. But like I say, I'll go out tomorrow and sort of put that in words and say that we failed on doing that today because of procedure. We'll try and correct that round and pick it up again in September.
Now, so all that makes sense. My only question is, you know, do we want to plan for a pub meeting in the next 4 to 6 weeks, or just not bother? As I say, I'm not sure whether I really want to organise a pub meeting, given what happened last time. But,
Only positive thoughts.
So, if we close that out, so if you're all happy with that structure, organisational, because we're just a little bit formal, then the next thing was the calendar.
Not yet.
Calendar.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Do you have to have a business training to be company director?
No, you don't. You have to be registered as a director.
And you also can't have a business that's gone insolvent.
Yeah, there are certain
previously.
rules about.
You also need to be over 18.
That's true. So there's certain rules about it, but no, you don't have to have a business. You have to be registered as a director.
No, but like have a TAFE or a
No.
home
Not at all.
No.
in business?
No.
Everybody has the ability to make money.
Yes.
Meets the minimum criteria. That's why I didn't know. That's why I just
Yes.
thought legally do you have
No.
to have that?
There's you can be excluded for certain things, but anyone can do it. I'm already director because I'm a director of another thing, and because I was going into this one's actually even more formal than the other one. I was going to go do the director's course anyway, so I'm interested. I've been through this process to get
Yeah,
us
I'd
to
like
this
to do
point.
that.
Yeah, well, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
So I was going to do the director's course because this actually is run even more formally than the other one. The other one I'm a director for is an international company. I'm the public officer of the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers, which has got a head office in New York. So it's a different structure. This one's somewhat more formal. So I was going to do the course, and I'm interested in continuing it. Long story long.
Anyway, all right. So the next thing on the slides is past events.
Past events. We've talked about past events, so I think we just
Have
go
we?
to
The slides are wrong.
No, they were pretty well done. But
Really done.
anyway, so there's the Try Drive. Then we're going to talk about the EV
Expo, which we did.
Now we've got up and coming events.
Calendar.
So, unless you've got any questions about the past events.
I have a question about the EV Expo since I didn't make it.
Yeah.
So compared to what we did, which was the EV Expo a couple of years ago,
Yep.
obviously been a massive increase in interest. across
They
the
killed
board.
it.
It was
The
amazing.
video I saw, there was pretty packed exhibition area.
It was amazing.
How was it compared to what we did in terms of just the number of people there, the
Yep.
interest,
The structure was
I
different.
guess, you know,
Structure was different. So it was 3 days. So ours was 2, and just on the Saturday, Sunday.
Yep.
Theirs was 3. It was the industry conference on the Friday, which
had a massive uptake.
was amazing. There was 150 people there. The room was full. The speakers were fantastic. It was really good. Not oversubscribed, but full. So that was fantastic. There was drinks there and after. I had a photo of that I was going to show these guys having drinks. There was a Gala Dinner, which was in the National Portrait Gallery, which is very swish. The food was fantastic. That was 130 people, where the Chief Minister spoke. We had David Pocock, who's the new senator,
I might be able to.
and they had kind of interviewed him about his life leading up to and now what he's doing in politics. So that was fantastic, and it was very, very zhuzhy. Then we had the 2 days of the expo, which is similar construct to ours. 8,000 people. So 400 test drives. They had fewer cars and they weren't quite as put together as ours. Apart from that, it was a very similar structure. It was try drives. It was the floor space. It was the consumer talks. I think that covered it. There was about the same number of vendors. There wasn't the same mix of vendors. There was more bigger vendors. There was Audi, BMW, Polestar, Tesla turned up. First time I've ever seen that. They didn't pay, but it turned up.
Tesla had legit salespeople on the
They
floor.
did.
Wow.
Yeah.
that's probably the first in this country.
Yes, so it's baby steps.
Well, at least at a consumer, like at a fleet of different story, but
Yeah.
a consumer event, that's the first.
Yeah, first time.
All right, so I got that one.
That was the Model Y. They turned up with Model Y.
No, I had no idea.
They did actually have
Very popular.
Oh.
Imagine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But the upshot was it's very similar in structure. The differences with the conference and the dinner, everything else is very similar.
Yeah.
It turned out differently because we tried to broaden out a little bit and get lots of different people. Not just the vendors. There wasn't as many vendors there as there is now. So there were more vendors. They were hard to get because their marketing dollar was a bit tight. They wanted to come, kind of saw the value, but didn't want to spend too much money because they didn't have the cars. So Kia didn't turn up because they didn't have, couldn't sell cars. I think Hyundai came through their local dealer, those sorts of things. It was hard to get the little people as well. They had a different fees that COVID was a thing, so they didn't want to come out in droves. So it's more biased towards the bigger brands, and even then it was a little bit funny. But on every metric, it was a success. Interestingly, our biggest sponsor for that event was ACT Government, and it's looking like they're going to ask us back again, which is going to be interesting because next year is Fully Charged Live is in March. Then WA are going to have their event, their expo, because we go around in rotation. ACT this year, WA next year, they have their one at the end of the year. They're saying early November.
So it's Fully Charged Live in Australia?
Yeah.
Sydney, March. So no, put it in your diary, so to speak, because we'll be there. I've marked us down as a display at Fully Charged Live as the club cars. So we've been talking to them for the last year or so about our event and about their event. So put that in your diary.
So if they're looking for, I mean, it sounds like a lot of the cities now are wanting, an annual event.
Yes.
Effectively. So the idea of us running state-based EV expos is demand's kind of going to outstrip that. And
Yes.
There's going to be expos in every city,
To some degree.
wherever anyway.
Yes. So
I was going to say, even if it's not the scale of an expo, I mean, look how popular the drive day was.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the Canberra. I saw some footage of one of the YouTube. Just the number of people were there,
8,000 people.
and it sounded like looked like the same or more numbers than we had in Sydney 2 years ago, and with 10 times the population here.
It was. Yeah, it was
So obviously we know the interest is just boom.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 times.
Well, this was it. There was two real standout things. One was everything was oversubscribed. People turned up in droves, and the conversation was completely different. Before we had people wandering in just to have a chat, have a
from
look.
the expo next door.
Exactly. Or there was something down a couple halls down at ours, so you had general chit chat. This 90%, 80-90% of the people there were motivated. They had a car, they were going to get a car, they wanted to know about a car, they were really interested. It was different conversations, like the conversations we had at St Ives. The people were committed, they were really, really interested. It wasn't just a general...
Probably half the people are actually going to buy a car in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Whereas if we wind that back to when we started 2014, 15 doing these things, these people who weren't thinking about buying a car for 3, 4, 5 years, if ever.
Yeah.
So
The keynote really helped people understand how to buy a car as well, and what the vendors were suffering.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll also throw in was that there were a lot of curly questions specific to the ACT, and a lot of the time the booth was personed by someone like myself who wouldn't know diddly squat about the ACT scheme and the rebates and the grants and this and that.
Because they had...
Well, I wouldn't know.
They just announced a couple of weeks before, and then they announced that week about the ending sales in 35 and so all that kind of stuff. So they...
But I can but say that was a bit confusing for people who weren't local to ACT and all the ACT specific questions.
Yeah.
So you're right. So what's going to happen? It's going to get a bit interesting next year because Fully Charged Live is going to take a lot of oxygen out of all of that at the beginning of the year. WA will do their event at the end of the year, and my suspicion is that ACT government are going to come back and encourage us with some kind of funding to go back again next year. So could be busy. Anyway. So just talking more generally on events, then the plan was next year to do second Wednesday of the month, kind of what we've been doing now. So just wanted to make sure that was still a good day to continue on. Physical meetings here every second month, and we were talking about another venue, But it turns out that there is a special grant on at the moment, so we've got a year's worth of rental here for free. So
I will push for this alternate
Sorry?
venue in a year's
Thank
time.
for that grant.
New South Wales government. Yeah.
That's, thanks to Matt then, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Throwing money around like drunken son.
Well, I
Election coming up.
went to these guys and said, I want my money back because we had a bit of credit. Can I have my money back? And they said, well,
Then they volunteered the secret.
the secret source. So what they've done is they've given us our money back, and that's the gift cards. So we've got the credit that we had remaining. Instead of using it, we'd spend it, so it's fine. We figured we'd gift cards. These are to use in any of their Bankstown Sports Club's venues. So this and then others.
Can we use that to pay for our meetings?
You can
Maybe
for
we
your
should
for
just
your
use
meals for our meetings.
Yeah.
No, not the meetings because they're free.
Right.
Don't have to pay any.
And
The
in
meetings-
in a
hold
year's
on.
time, maybe
The
we'll get
room-
you moved
the room
to
is
Eunice's
free.
house.
No, we're
Brought
gonna.
to you by the
offer-
New South Wales government.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So so I turned the instead of taking the money back from the venue, I thought we'd give it to the members. So that's what your tickets are for. Well, think of it.
Oh,
That's what your raffle tickets for. So one of you will get your $50 gift card in but more generally on events. Okay, physical meeting here every 2 months. Then in the interim month, it'll be either a social, a workshop type meeting, or potentially a Zoom, like we will do next week. And at the Zoom, it'll be the AGM, but we'll also try and bring in some speakers because we've got a couple of speakers lined up, AGL as an example. And then we'll try and keep up the external meetings, the external displays. I just wanted to make sure that I'm not burning people out in doing that, because we've done a bit this last little while. So if that's okay, the plans are to do Chatswood in the 8th of October. Then in September we'll have September will be our Zoom meeting. October will be the Chatswood display. November is the AGM, which will be the national AGM, which will be a Zoom meeting. On the 7th of October, the Perth to Sydney Outback Challenge lands in Sydney. So John Edwards in the Model 3 is driving all the way from Perth as part of that tour. And so he'll be landing here for the finish on the 7th of October. So what I was going to suggest is we try and do something here, because every branch is meeting him along the way. So this will obviously be big because it's the finish. So we'll have the 7th of October. And then in December, I was going to suggest we go back to the Skull Club for
Christmas.
7th of November. So the race finishes here on the 7th of November, yeah. It starts. Yeah, it's a race from Perth to Sydney.
Cannonball Run.
You look,
Thinking that.
So John is doing it in a Model 3.
Yes.
but What are the other...
petrol, whatever.
Right.
Bullshit cars, probably. So he's got the only electric vehicle. Yes. Yeah. So, but my suggestion is that we do something around that date, meet him here, maybe even some kind of convoy to wherever they land. I've got to find out the details, but I was going to suggest that we make something of that.
Is that getting coverage?
Well, that's my hope. Yeah. So, I mean, the organisers are pretty switched on, so I presume that they're going to push the button, and I was going to try and get on the back of that.
Right. Michael, there was another one that's not listed here, which
Yep.
was the environmental fair at Marrickville. So,
When was that?
well, I mean, we've been tossing it around in discussion, and then we forgot. But gosh, I could hunt around with it on email. But let's just say, look, not to sort of overwhelm people. Maybe I could skip the Chatswood one and just go as a one-person show to the Marrickville sort of environmental thing, because.
Well, let's check out the dates. So.
Yeah. Because the thing is, I don't know that anyone doesn't know that I host a radio show out at Marrickville, so I thought it might be nice to sort of turn up to that anyway and build up the connections, if nothing else. So the point is, I'm willing to turn up there by myself and hold the fort, but hey, it would be nice to have more than just one car, I suppose.
There's also that Pulse of the Earth thing in September.
September? Oh, yeah.
You know the one?
I do remember that one.
What dates?
I think
Early
it's one
September.
more over at,
But I don't see too many members going because it's
Coming up.
buggery.
Yeah.
So
There's another event at, I think it's at the Spit,
Yeah.
or at Mossman sometime in the next, I can try and find the details, so they're looking for someone to come along.
Okay, send us the dates.
Ursula.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Chris Jones has got a few things here.
Zero Sydney North, which is like a zero emissions sort of group, not for profit. So they attend Mossman markets every 2 or 3 months and basically have a couple of cars. So last time we had a Model 3 Performance and i5 there. And it's part of the market, so we sort of take some space at the bottom of the market. There's green next to the fast charger there. And it just runs for sort of 3-4 hours. You just chat to people. So it's not a dedicated EV event. But there's another one, I can't quite remember what it's called. It's fairly big, and I think it's actually based at the Spit, but again, not 100% certain, which is coming up in the next couple of months, which I'll send on the details. But I guess there are probably, not endless, but there would almost be an event every fortnight at the moment of festivals, eco fairs, or whatever else. And it's really a matter of how much stamina and how much interest you have in attending all of these. Yeah. Obviously, the best bang for your buck is going to be at an EV Expo. It's going to be an RMA Drive Day because 90% of the people you're chatting to just get it. And I did go to the one in Mossman, and they're interested, but they're not that far down the pipeline. So you kind of feel like it's an education piece rather than this is why you choose a Model Y over an RX5 or whatever, right? Like it's helping to make the final decision so next week they buy a car and order it. But there are, these guys are alluding to, there's a stack of these events going on where I'd love to have EV people come along and talk. And, you know, I guess we need to decide as a group
How hard to go?
how many of these we want to do, where they suit. Like if it's nearby, I'll go. Like Canberra for me was just too far to drive. I could only afford a day and I wasn't going to spend 6-7 hours in the car. So I just decided, no, I'm just going to leave it. But, you know, whereas doing St Ives, a piece of cake, it's 15 minutes down the road, it's not a problem. So I think it's just a matter of maybe at least get visibility of these events up. And there is, you know, AEVA paraphernalia in terms if you want to do it. So for those members who are keen to come along or it's nearby, then we can do it. So as John's saying, if there's something close to you, then why not go to that rather than coming up to St Ives from there.
Well, the other thing we're also saying is, do we want to have another pub meeting soon? So if someone else organises it, can be wherever. If it's going to be close to me, it's going to be a pub just down the road. But anyway.
Where are you?
North Ryde is where I live, so yes.
Well,
Yeah, but anyway, it's really sad that you didn't know about the last one that I did at Hornsby, I must say, yeah.
Well, if we pick a date, so we do need to do the September meeting as a Zoom meeting so we can pick everyone up to the extraordinary AGM. But if we pick a date around that time, maybe go down to the ranch or something like that.
All right, well, let's say the ranch and, I don't know, maybe a week after that Zoom meeting. Then I will have to say, much as there was a lot of energy, basically, yes, if you do two things that are physical in the short period, then maybe that depletes energy. But if the first thing is a Zoom meeting, I think people will be more inclined to turn up to something physical.
So what date is this ranch?
So if the Zoom meeting's the 14th of September, what's to it?
28th.
The
28th of September?
28th of September, sounds like a day.
Just an extension for what you were saying before. Is there an interest of the membership, and I know we only have a small amount here, but perhaps just an extension to, you know, going out and promoting things and helping with events, about having special interest groups. So, you know, all of us have a variety of knowledge, you know, in different aspects of electric vehicles and associated things, green energy, etc. You know, maybe we sort of want to have some people that have a particular interest, you know, maybe attend some events or put on events.
Is that because if we have the physical one here, is that where we slot something like that into the odd month and do something along those lines on that and that meeting? Is that the...
One of the things I liked in the past that we did is we went over to Bruno's, you know, workshop
tours.
And so the events that were tied into a pub night, I found them more interesting if we go over to Bruno's place, check out his latest motors and equipment and stuff that he was doing. Yeah. And then there was I can go and have a drink and a catch up later. So depending on what you're there for, you can either, like, I'm really interested in what Bruno's doing with his bike conversions, and so I'm going along to that, and I might go to the pub event. Yeah. Maybe we can try and do events rather than just being, I'm just going to go to the pub. It's like, no, I want to see the latest and greatest charging station that Jamie's been working on, or conversion someone else has been working on.
So, we've been to Michael's place a bit much lately, but who knows? Maybe there will be progress on your Lotus that's worth having a look at. You know?
I was going to suggest it. EVC, as an example, we can go visit them again. I've been talking to Jeff. He got flooded, so that kind of kibosh that for a bit, come back to my place and have a look at the latest. So we could do that. We've got a few that we could do almost immediately.
Those are the ones that, over the last few years, they're the events that we attracted more people to.
Yeah.
They are actually.
Epping.
There's one at my place, and we just went to the Blue Gum afterwards, but I don't know, there's like 15, 20 people just looking around the garage at the stuff I've done in the cars and there or whatever else. But it's kind of good for people to, get some hands-on sort of stuff
All right.
with whatever that particular person's knowledge was.
Because I think, like you say with Bruno's and that was Bruno's was probably the biggest one.
It was huge. Yeah, it was good.
He had a lot of people that were, yeah.
I think he had some of his own crowd there too.
He did. The bike guys.
It's good because it's making the
Cross-pollinate.
It's keeping the information flowing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Okay, we'll try and add that into the
Yeah, so there's
calendar.
someone who lives within 5Ks of where we're going to go for the pub. Maybe they put their hand up to show their car or their whatever they've done.
Actually, is
Station or
Bruno's still on the scene?
He's in
I
Newcastle.
haven't seen him for ages.
He's in Newcastle.
Oh, okay.
So we have to go to Newcastle.
Burnout Sweets latest bike.
Yeah.
Well, if Jeff is willing to host something, that would be excellent.
He
I
is.
do believe Jeff is moving his workshop from his house to somewhere else.
He's always
So-
planning to because he's sick of getting flooded. But if we try and squeeze
Is he
something.
actually getting flooded or is just coming up to...
Nah,
He's been
he had
flooded
like
3 times or
he showed me a photo and his machinery was underwater. Yeah, the lower garage was underwater. So and not just once, I think it was 3 times. So the wife said, "We're out of here."
And I spoke to him. Normally, what happens is you get one flood which clears away all the brush, so the next flood is not as worse. But what this did, in this case, the first flood silted up the river, so the later floods were worse. So it's reversed to what's normally happening. Normally, the first flood clears away all the brush and so on, and sort of the trees are pretty pristine after that.
So if we couldn't get Jeff, I might be able to do a Lotus demo and then we go to the ranch on the 28th. I'll try and think that out.
That would work. So there'll at least be us two at the ranch.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'll be in on a cruise.
Enjoy it.
Well, that's a reason, not an excuse. So good on you. Hope you enjoyed the cruise.
Okay.
So-
Budget for the coming year.
Budget for the coming year. So I put that in because I wanted to add a bit more signage. I wanted to do one more pull-up, which I reckon is probably going to be $300 or $400. And
What about
more
the
signage.
destination charger conversation?
Well then.
So I don't know if everybody knows, but basically our lovely government has come up with a program to incentivize business owners to implement charging infrastructure. And they're actually having a talk. I don't know the exact date. I can add it to your email tomorrow, I guess. But basically they're going to present or do a Q&A on the topic. But in summary, it's actually quite lucrative for a business to implement a destination charger on their wall. They don't need to come up with so much capital. Couple of things to note that there are certain charges that they want to implement and there are certain software packages that they'll cover in this program, which essentially means that we're not going to have a bunch of unreliable charges rolled out at the taxpayer's expense. That led us to the EV Expo where there were 5 stands trying to flog EVSEs, and a lot of them have pretty good stuff, and our continued support partner, which is EVSE, have got a 22 kilowatt freestanding charger in a steel box. And basically we need to come up with $1,700 and we can implement it.
So I was on the panel that designed this destination charger thing. So basically what Jason is saying is we apply for the grant to part fund the installation of this charger.
Yeah, so my personal own benefit to this is that I live near a rural community that does not have EV charging, and the pub and the caravan park that are there both want to put one in. And I want to put AEVA on the front of it, and I want AEVA to actually own it so that we have a purpose around this particular adventure and potentially go and increase our reach to a bigger audience.
Where is it?
This
Where
is
do you want
this is in Windia, which is between Mudgee and Lithgow. So there's nothing out there. It's an EV desert right now. Obviously, it's not a fast charger, but it would be very convenient for someone staying at the caravan park or person visiting the pub to suck down some juice.
Which has always been my thing. Was two things: funding, three things: funding, where to put it, where's the place that we should put it, and then maintenance thereon after. So those are the three things.
So in that grant program, they're covering the software for 2 years, so we don't have to pay a cent to run it. The caravan park, and I'm yet to nut this out yet, but basically we'll probably come up with the entire install fee. And my excavator is actually there, so I'm ready to go.
So our input might be just writing the proposal and getting the grant.
Yeah, there's just a lot of paperwork basically. But EVSC has basically said that they'll hand it to me on a silver platter as long as I can find a location. So they've already applied successfully for 3 grants, and both of those, 3 of those grants have been approved. So their charger is on the program. It's an industrial charger, and it looks like it will do everything.
Okay, well, my one concern with this, and I think we are addressing it, is that the membership generally need to be aware of it. And while I think the reality is that Jason is the only person who will be motivated to push this along, and good luck to Jason, and I'm sure it'll work out. But equally, if some other member wanted to do something similar, I think we'd have to be even-handed and also help them in the same way. I think reality is Jason's probably the only person who's going to be motivated enough to do this, but it needs to be equal access to all who can be bothered.
Just on that, actually, also the New South Wales government, and I posted in the Facebook group about this at the video, they are doing basically kind of business support grants. So if, as a business or an organisation, you are basically presenting to the business and providing them useful information, you can get up to $5,000 to do so. So us as an organisation with some expertise, there is potential for, Jason's got one example with the caravan park or whatever, but if there are other potential businesses that we may wish to approach as AEVA, that we could actually be funded by the government to run those kind of, information sessions.
Having just finished the program with the SCT guys, they did a similar program. You don't get the money for free. The money's there, and if you're diligent, you can get it. It's not that hard to get it as long as you do your paperwork, but you don't get the money for nothing. You have to follow through. So you'd have to be determined to be able to. You have to follow through.
Yeah. Which sort of by extension, I guess, comes through to the communication thing. Do we want to promote to business?
It's the do thing. It's the communication is one thing. It's actually the do. That was the Canberra guys. They actually couldn't spend the money. They had to give the money back because they just couldn't do enough to support what the government wanted them to do.
What were they doing? Running a series of online webinars to...
It was a mix. It was online. It was physical. It was try drives. It was events. It was E-Venture it was called. So it was a series of events of different types. Those that you mentioned. So and it was over 9 months, 6 months, more 9 months, a year. But one of the reasons that they couldn't spend the money, they had to give the money back, was COVID hit, so they had to cancel some of the events. So, but it was. My experience is you don't get the money for nothing. You actually have to work to get it.
Yeah. Which is part of the question is is that something we want to do?
Yeah.
I guess it depends on the degree of collateral we've already got and how much we need to create. So it's quite straightforward for us to attend any kind of event and provide experts on the ground to speak to the public about anything to do with EVs, right? We do it already. We've done it for years or whatever.
Yeah.
Producing an online webinar series. I'm sure between us we've no problems knocking up the PowerPoint packs or whatever else. We just need to find the time to do that and then work out what the audience is pitch in. So it's just a matter of which of these things that nicely fit in and don't require much work. And the ones that, okay, well, do an online webinar series with a credible size, who's going to do that? We'll take away from the day job to do that, or we need someone else to do it.
So Chad's was an example. We got $1,000 to turn up to that. I could have asked for more, but that was easy.
Yeah, I think that's, wherever we can, that's kind of the approach whereby if we're getting some money back, so that, Jason doesn't have to buy his own lunch at, on May Day or whatever else.
I did screw that up, that was my fault.
No, that's right. No, but I think the key here is that we can never walk away from these activities feeling like And sometimes you do, and I think that's bad. And that's normally because you're out of pocket, even if it's $20 or $30 or $50 for a recharge or for a lunch or something or other else. So we just need to make sure that whatever things we do, we're not spending a bunch of time. And that's the trouble about chasing a grant, is you can easily spend 20, 30, 50 hours on something, and then you don't really get anything out of it, personally or even for AEVA. So
Yeah,
kind of got to dose your efforts worthwhile.
yeah, the Canberra branch, apart from it being all screwed up, or maybe because it was partly because it was all screwed up, they burnt themselves out a little bit trying to service that and that had to give money back. So
Most of the charges get in our way. On private land. I gotta go bathroom.
I think part of the stuff with destination charger is that if it's economic for a business like EDSE or a whole bunch of others just to work directly with a site to put all this in, then I'm not sure how much value we provide. I mean, Jason's obviously keen to do it for a certain area. He would like to, if others want to do the same thing, I think that's fine. But you know, all those destination charges are going to get installed even if we do nothing, right?
Yeah.
So it's probably better off to actually go step back and go, okay, what can we do? Like if we turn up to an NRMA event, or we turn up to Castle Hill, it feels to me that it makes a difference. If we weren't there, there'd be someone who wouldn't buy a car for another 6 months, or another 12 months, or 24 months.
So the NRMA guys came around to us and said we made a difference. So because
But
we
they
weren't
were
the
stingy
vendor.
about the lunch, weren't they, the bastards?
That wasn't them, it was me. I screwed it up. So
Actually, they gave it to you, but you didn't ask for it.
no, they didn't give it. They
Well,
didn't.
I remember with Jason,
It was my fault. Let's just move
I
on.
was with Jason and we were talking to one of the NRMA guys and oh no.
No, it was me. So you know,
By the way, do you have a YouTube
yes,
account?
yeah,
Because
we're on there now. We're streaming on there now. So
Right, so a lot of times I'm there, I'm talking the same, answering the same question again.
Yeah.
So like it's good I can talk to 100 people, but then the moment I finish it, that's
I
it.
see. I take your point
So
actually.
if we record it,
Yeah.
say we went around and talked to that person, this person, charged
Come over and look at this. That's actually a good idea.
I think
Yeah.
once it's online, people can view it again and again and use it, in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do that one night here, is because 30 minutes beforehand, a couple of us just answer the standard 10 questions that we get at every single meeting, at every single event, and then just post it up. So I think things like that save us some time.
Yeah, and also if
good
we
point.
have the event already,
Yeah.
if someone's just coming to go around taking a video,
Yeah.
and then we go home, I'm more than happy to do it.
Yeah, but videos are a good way of promotion. And just what you said about top 10 questions, it's good to have a consistent message as well.
Yeah.
Make sure we're all saying the same thing.
That's true. That's a good idea. Yeah.
I think I'm happy to run
Not wanting to
that.
sound authoritarian or whatever, but yeah.
So have we covered sort of these issues?
We
budget
have.
for
I think,
coming year and,
unless there's any other business, I think.
Oh
there-
yes, I know. Richard had some reports about some courses that you've become aware of. So do you want to talk about that, Richard?
I visited this place today. I have no affiliation with this company, whatever. I just come across them because I bought some metal shaping tools from Northmead. And as I was going to pick them up, I went through the industrial bit and I noticed these people, and they had all these old cars, bikes, everything that they restore. But they don't only restore them themselves, but they assist people to restore their cars. So they provide training to do metal shaping, rust repairs, welding, metal shaping. So you can virtually pay them a block of hours. So
I wonder, Jason, is it possible to run the camera and get Richard to sort of wave that brochure in front of the camera?
We can send the details around.
So where's Jason gone to?
He's gone to the toilet.
yeah, I want to keep this because I want to do the intro. I want to do
That's okay. We'll get a bit of info off you and we'll send it around.
Yeah.
Just okay, well,
That's why I always go straight.
Okay, what is the name of the company,
It's
Richard?
called Motor Retro. Yeah, and they're in Northmead.
Northmead, okay.
M-O-T-O?
MOTOR retro.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah, a bit of trivia, you know You know, Northmead is derived from North Meadow with respect to Government House at Parramatta. There you go. You needed to know that.
So,
Thank you.
So they run midweek classes, and they're for 4 hours on Tuesday evenings from 5:30 to 9:30, and they have them on weekends, run on Saturdays from 8:30 to 4:30. So obviously the Saturday's an 8-hour block, and the Tuesday night's a 4-hour block. And you purchase a block of hours. You can purchase 8 hours for $320, so that's $40 an hour virtually. Or you can get 24 hours for $745, and that works out like a $31 an hour or something. And they give you. You can also do a MIG welding course for 3 hours, and that's $154 on Saturdays. But if you've got an old car like me, and you want to fix it up, and you want to learn how to do it yourself, I got quoted by a local company down our way to do repairs on my car for $100 an hour. So, and that's for them to do it without training me how to do it.
Yeah.
So,
because the issue is, I suppose, you know, one would like to think you can do quality. Sure, the pros will take less time than you, but as long as you can make a good quality, even if it takes you 2 or 3 times more than the pro does, it's your own time. So you can think of it differently, you know. So.
Yeah, and they teach, and these are qualified people who they used to teach TAFE.
Yep, we'll grab the info if you're rich.
Yeah.
Pass around. Cool.
Okay, so other business. I wonder, do we want to?
I think we're done. I think with other business.
Anybody want to bring up some stuff for other business? Or?
Is the list being circulated?
Yes.
For who's got it?
I
at
think
the moment?
Richard's got it there. I can see.
You don't,
All right. Well, look, I realise I'm one of the tickets, and if I pick up my own ticket, please don't all yell out rigged. But anyway, okay.
I've tried to shuffle as best I can.
Okay, here we go. Black A24, which is not me. That's a mixed blessing anyway.
looks like Jason.
Jason, lucky sod, yes.
Well, he's not here, so
It's null and void.
The other thing I just say about other business is that I sort of mentioned briefly to Michael in other conversations is in terms of some of the events, it'd be good to get everyone's input as well. So the events will build it up.
Yeah.
So I'm super keen to go out to the Sydney Dragway and just get a bunch of EVs there one night, sometime in the next 4 months. Wherever, it doesn't have to be an event, could be the Toffer or whatever else. But actually go out and do some events that
That's on the list.
really car focused and just fun, right? And you go to the pub afterwards or whatever else you want to do.
Yep.
But just have the event is tied to
You won.
drive it to somewhere, maybe you drive through 3 gorges or some stuff, or we go to the Dragway for a night or something.
Definitely on the list.
Keen to get others input as to what sort of events they want to do, which are a bit more oriented with the vehicles.
Yeah. Actually, for those that are here, what's your preferred method of communication?
Yeah.
You know, what do you use? Forums, Facebook,
email is my preferred.
I don't trust Facebook that much.
Sorry, SMS.
Well, you know, there's the old thing that if Facebook has 400 of your likes, they can predict your behaviour better than you can.
400 is probably less than that.
All right, 250.
That's why you're skewing the information. Anyway.
All right. Can I think? Unless there's any other business.
There was one which may be of interest to some. I'll post some information about it later directly, but I'll just mention it now. There is a Victorian company that is looking at providing hybrid and electric vehicle repair training. And I think to like a TAFE kind of level. It is running in the, I think it's September. There is a cost for it, but I think it's depending on whether you want to get the qualification, just do the training. It varies between about $4,000 and $6,000, and I think annoyingly, is held in Ballarat, so they also do an accommodation package as well. But probably less relevant to some of the members here, aside from maybe yourself as a mechanic, could be of interest. But I'll share some info on that.
I'll also.
You have to have some sort of mechanical training to do that sort of stuff, wouldn't you? Like, or electrical?
It's
Yeah.
I haven't read the full prerequisites, but it does seem to be targeted more at professionals.
Yeah.
It's really because they had talks and conference on Friday, and they're looking across like that in CIT in Canberra. They said the students they have now, they're more like IT students and gamers that are interested in gaming compared to classical accounts.
Yeah.
So it's just how it shifts.
It is funny. I mean, my background is electronics and IT, and working on an EV is, aside from the extra precautions you need, isn't really that much different the projects I did as a teenager. To an extent. Obviously, there's a lot more CAN communication, and that still confuses me to an extent. But there's a lot more to learn. But the basics are kind of the same.
Once you understand how it works, it's easy.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I might throw in was that part of the stuff that I got up to in Canberra, I did go to the right to repair meeting. And I mean, how is that relevant to vehicles? Well, and to some degree, electric vehicles. There's some legislation that's recently come in. I think it was only sort of endorsed in the beginning of July, that manufacturers are now obliged to share information about repairing their cars. Not with the general public, but certainly with appropriately qualified people. So the government legislation is breaking the monopoly that given automotive manufacturers have on repairing their own vehicles. So it's something that the Productivity Commission has actually stuck an oar in, because I suppose it's not something that we're directly involved with, but some of the time a mechanic will fiddle around for like 6 or 7 hours trying to fix something because the manufacturer is not releasing the information, where in fact that fix should take 15 minutes or half an hour. And those sorts of numbers are at least the sort of meat that the Productivity Commission can get into. Because you can whinge a bit, but when you put numbers and economics to it, then some parts of the government will start to take notice. That's a bit sad, but that's a reality. And things have actually changed just recently.
All right, I'm killing the stream.
All good.